My name is Sydney Otto, and this is Draw My Life. I was born on a Monday, October 16th, 1995, in a hospital right outside of Cleveland, Ohio. I lived in a small house on a street called Shaw Road. My mailbox, being on the other side of the road, wasn't even in the same town as my house. In August of 1998, my little brother Trevor was born. So then, my family consisted of my brother and I, my mom and dad, and our dog, Blitz, a Springer Spaniel. We made a ton of great memories at that house. My dad and I used to build huge snowmen in the winter, taller than him even. We made giant leaf piles in the fall, and Blitz and I would jump around and play in them. We even had a space trolley in our backyard, or what some of you might refer to as a zip line. In 2000, our family moved to a small town called Newberry. That year, I met my very best friend, Jacqueline. She plays a really important role in my life, and still does today. I also started kindergarten that year, the first of many years of school. So then, the next year, my grandparents moved to Ohio from Missouri, so we got to see them way more often than we used to. A few years went by, and I pretty much sailed through school. I made tons of friends from school, but also remained good friends with Jacqueline. I got my very first pet, a gray cat named Gus, after one of the mice in Cinderella. Then, the summer between 4th and 5th grade rolled around. My parents had been fighting a lot recently, but that was the climax of it all. That summer, my parents got divorced. At first, I didn't believe it. I wouldn't believe it. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. Some of my friends' parents were divorced, and they always complained about how their parents were always fighting over them. And I remember thinking, thank God my parents aren't divorced. And then, all of a sudden, they were. My dad lived with my grandma in Cleveland for a while, and we stayed mostly with my mom at our house in Newberry. I saw my dad every other weekend and every Wednesday. Each Wednesday, my dad took us to Subway, and eventually the people there knew us by name and even knew how to make our subs. We always thought it was kind of cool. Don't ask me why. Eventually, my grandma retired and moved down to North Carolina, where I see her a few times a year, and she always spoils us with her good cooking. So my dad got his own apartment, no more than 5 minutes from our house. Anyways, a few more years passed. This is around when we got our second cat, Phoebe, who belonged to my younger brother. Sadly, around the same time, our dog Blitz died. I had known her my entire life, and it was sad to see her go. But my mom also met her longtime boyfriend, Troy, who, as the years went by, played a bigger and bigger part in my life. So 8th grade began, and I was doing pretty well in school. I was going to Newberry Public School, but unfortunately, they were having a lot of budget problems, and that's how I ended up at Notre Dame Cathedral Latin High School, or, because that's kind of long, NDCL. I even got to go to school with Jacqueline, who had been at private school her whole life, and even on my senior year, my brother was a freshman at the same place. Anyways, freshman year was pretty uneventful. Sophomore year, I got my first job at a restaurant nearby called Yours Truly. At first, I was a hostess, and eventually, I worked my way up to being a waitress. I loved working so much, and let's be real, the paycheck and tips were very nice too. And I've worked there since then. Occasionally, Troy will stop in and get one of my killer strawberry milkshakes. Fall semester of my junior year, we hosted a German exchange student. Her name was Linda, and we became as close as sisters. It was one of the most amazing opportunities I've ever had. The summer after my junior year, I visited Linda in Germany, and I had the time of my life. It was one of the raddest adventures I've ever been on. My senior year was pretty fabulous as well. College app time rolled around, and I applied to OU as well as 5 other schools. I was accepted into all but one of them, and by the time spring break rolled around at the end of April, I still didn't know where to go. Unfortunately, money kind of made that decision for me, and I confirmed my place in Ohio University's class of 2018. My mom and dad, my grandparents, and Troy played a large role in my college decision and even visited some of the schools with me. That summer, as a last hurrah to the end of our high school careers, my friends and I took a trip to Chicago together and had a blast exploring the city, taking pictures by the Bean, and of course hitting up the Magnificent Mile for some well-earned shopping time. Finally, fall came around and I began packing up to head off to college. It was the worst having to leave my mom, who had become the biggest role model in my life. She's always been there for me, and I know that she always will be there for me. So here I am today, a freshman at Ohio University, a journalism major, and a prospective editor or publisher one day. I've made tons of friends and already tons of great memories. And now, that's my life.